please, if you're near a light switch, we'll do that. I was, the songs we sang really, they exalt Jesus, which is great. So thank you, Dov. They exalt Jesus as the one who stands above all creation, right? Who is the King of kings and the Lord of lords, who is holy, 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 majestic. And today, this majestic God, this King of the universe, sits beside a well in the hot desert sun as a poor, vulnerable woman who is despised by society, despised as the lowest of the low in all ways imaginable. Vulnerable, rejected, abandoned. This King of kings, this creator of the universe, meets her by a well. And I think this is what our God is doing. When we talk about the holiness of God, often we think about how he is distant from us. He's so holy, he's so other. But I think one of the ways he's different than us is that he's willing to come near to those who are hurting, who are broken, who are undeserving. He's holy because he comes near to the brokenhearted and the crushed in spirit, to the vulnerable. He says, here's the verse to this woman, whoever drinks the water I give them will never thirst. Indeed, the water I give them will become in them a spring of water welling up to eternal life. When I think of this woman who meets Jesus at the well, I think of our friend Betty, who some of you have met, but we've known for many years. Our family has known. And she's given me permission to share this, and I've shared this with you before, but I think of her. Betty is a woman who lives on and off the street, one of our neighbors, and she came up to me several years ago with a smile on her face saying, I am sober 4 days. I'm clean 4 days. I haven't used. And I say, how does it feel? Right? And she says, it hurts. Well, what hurts? Is it the withdrawal? No. It's the memories, right? It's the memories that hurt. And it's the memories and the experiences that she has had in her life that draw her to the substance she's addicted to, the well she goes to get freedom from the pain that she experiences. And so I think of Betty and I think of, what does she want? What does she want when she goes to the drug she uses or does other things? What does she want? She wants release from the pain, right? She wants forgiveness for what she's done. She wants healing from what's been done to her. She is thirsty for life, for abundant water that would like meet the driest places of her heart and bring healing there. And so I want to ask you, what do you want? What do you want? And what needs are you trying to meet in the way that you live your life? What wells do you go to satisfy your deepest needs? I think this is what Jesus is doing as he meets this woman at the well. She comes to a well physically thirsty, coming to a physical well, wanting water. But Jesus flips it around and says, you are coming for physical water, but I want to talk to you about your spiritual thirst and the source that satisfies and meets what you really long for, what you're really hungering for. So there are a lot of wells that we go to, right, in our life. We are all looking to meet our core desires, wants that we have. And we've talked about this before, but let's name some of these. Every human being has a desire beneath the surface. Anything we're looking for is really a search for, first, belonging, right? We want to know, am I enough? Do I belong? Do I have a family? Do I have home? Belonging. Security, that second desire, right? We all want to know if we're safe. We all want to know if there is enough, if there's enough money, if there's enough food, if there's enough to go around. So we have this desire for security. And then we have a desire for significance. We want to know we matter. We have purpose. We want to be a part of something bigger than ourselves, right? So these are three kind of categories of human longing, the things that we want in our life, and that every human being is searching for and trying to meet that need for belonging, security, significance. And I want to name, these are really good desires. They're given to you by God. You were made to have these desires, and you were made to have these desires met. And there's a person that provides all that you're looking for, right? The problem where we get into trouble is with the fall, with the brokenness, where shalom and love is broken down. We stop going to the source and we start looking for these things in all the wrong places. Isn't there a song called that? We're looking for love in all the wrong places, right? And when we look for love in all the wrong places, we don't get love, right? We get heartache. We get abandonment. We get disappointment. We get loneliness and all of these things. So idolatry, the idea of idolatry, worshiping something other than God, is essentially the act of trying to get something from someone or some experience that only God can fully provide, right? And so we go to that thing as the source of what we need, and it's a misplaced worship. It's a misplaced, we're going to the wrong source, and it destroys us. So let's talk about some of those wells, all right? And maybe you guys could come up with some, but what are some of the wells we go to find a sense of belonging, security, significance? Anyone want to shout one out? Places we go to find belonging? Work. Yes. We find significance in work, or we find a sense of belonging in work. If the right profession, the right people will like us and accept us, right? Or we feel security in work. Maybe we're doing the job we don't really want to do, but it gives us a sense of security, and so we keep it. I've heard it. It's called the golden chain, where you make too much to quit. Golden handcuffs or something like that. You make too much to quit. You hate your job, but you're trapped because it gives you money, right? What's another well? Relationships. Yes. We go looking for belonging or significance or security in relationships, romantic relationships, friendships, right? This is most pronounced in adolescence, but it never goes away. I'm convinced that we're all middle schoolers, just in adult bodies, right? There's the drama, there's the search for acceptance, there's the insecurity, there's the backbiting and gossip. Like, it's all middle school. We are middle schoolers. We go to, how about the well of information? Like, if I know enough, I can protect myself. Or if I know certain things, a certain group of people I will have street cred with, I will belong, or I'll be significant. We do this with biblical knowledge as well. If I can know enough about God, if I can know the right things, I'll be safe. God will accept me. Or I'll be accepted in whatever group I'm in, right? If I know the right things, if I know the right words, if I know the right experiences. So even things that all these things are good, right? Relationships, work, Yeah, all these things, biblical knowledge, they're all good. But if they are being used to provide our deepest needs, they become very destructive because they can't give us what we are looking for, right? And so what we end up being is like a person trapped on a raft in the middle of an ocean, right? With no fresh water. Imagine someone stranded in the middle of the ocean. They're dying of thirst. Water is everywhere. But the only water available is salt water. And if they drink it, something strange happens, right? If you drink salt water when you're dying of thirst, it may be temporary relief, but the salt actually pulls out the water out of your body, right? And the more you drink, the more dehydrated you would become until it would kill you. You would die. The thing they believe is saving them is actually making them thirstier, right? And that is what these false wells do to us in our life. We go to them trying to quench our thirst, and they just end up leaving us more and more thirsty. And we drink more and more of the harmful water, and we become more and more dehydrated until we're destroyed, right? They promise relief, they promise comfort, they promise security, but instead of satisfying our thirst, they make us very more desperate for the thing we're longing for. So here is Jesus' promise, right? He comes in to this search for significance, belonging, security. He comes, meets this woman at a physical well, right? And he promises a water that will quench her thirst forever. And she believes him. She wants this. She needs this. And you can almost imagine her thinking, because what if I didn't have to come to this well every single day to quench my thirst? What if? What if I wasn't a slave to my need to come here over and over again every day? But that's the moment that Jesus diagnoses the deeper problem. He takes advantage of this opportunity with her physical thirst to get to her spiritual thirst, right? He gets to her spiritual woundedness. He gets beneath the surface to the level of her desire, and that's where Jesus always wants to meet us. Do you hear that? Jesus always wants to meet us at the well where we're going to for what we need, are most desperate for. That's the thing. God isn't distant from us in our addictions. God isn't distant from us in the dysfunctions, at the false wells. Jesus is right there at the well. As you drink the salt water, he's like, no, there's living water here. If you would ask, I would give you a water that meets your deepest thirst. And so he does this cleverly. He asks a question of this woman at this well. He asks her to draw water, and she's surprised because he's not supposed to talk to her. Here's the thing. Let's talk about this woman. This woman, how many husbands has she had? 5 husbands. Now this woman, like a lot of women, gets a bad rap, all right, in Scripture. She's been painted with a harmful brush, right? We see, Jesus here is meeting a woman who is a sinner. She's been married 5 times. And Jesus calls her out on her sin and still loves her. However, what if there's a different way to understand that? What if a woman could not divorce a man in this culture? What if she did not have the legal authority or power to divorce her husband? Women did not have that authority. The most wealthy of women, maybe in certain circumstances, could have. So, if she has been divorced, it is because the husband in the position of power has divorced her, abandoned her, left her. But then let's look at it a little more closely, because it doesn't say she's been divorced 5 times, does it? We just go right there. But let's keep in context. What's the life expectancy of ancient Near East here 2,000 years ago in the middle of the desert? How long are people living? It is very likely that some of these husbands had died. Maybe the loves of her life had been lost to disease and to sickness. We don't know. So we start to see a different picture of this woman. It's not some promiscuous woman who now lives with a man she's not married to. A woman in this culture is hopeless without a man. It's not saying women are hopeless without men. It's saying in this culture, you can't survive without a male covering. You needed a father. You needed a husband. You needed an older son. You needed someone to provide for you, to protect you, to be a covering. And so this woman is desperate. So she finds she's been abandoned or has lost these men in her life, going from person to person, hopefully trying to find love, trying to find protection, trying to find provision. And one after another, she's been abandoned, she's been left to death or divorce or whatever has happened. And now she seeks shelter desperately under a man's protection. And we don't know the situation. We don't know if she's in love with this man. We don't know if she has to be in this man's household. She's trapped in this household. We don't know if she's abused in this household. All we know is she's a Samaritan woman having lost 5 husbands and now is at this well. So Jesus meets this woman, desperate, vulnerable, and outcast, at least in her culture and in her society, marginalized, victimized. And so, when he says in verse 17, you are right when you say you have no husband. The fact is you have had 5 husbands, and the man you now have is not your husband. Something happens here. It seems that he's diagnosing her heart's, he's coming as the living water to the very wounded place of her heart, to a place of deep pain. I know you're not married. I know you don't have a husband. I know you're vulnerable. I know your story. I know each and every loss. I know each and every abandonment. I know why you're here, and I know what you need. And he meets her where she really is, in her desperation and her pain. And that's why, if Jesus was pointing a finger and saying, you've been married 5 times, and then she's like, oh, that's great news. And she goes and runs and tells the village, hey, come meet the man who told me everything I ever did. He'll expose your sin to the world as well. That's great news. And so then the whole village comes out to get confronted and slammed by Jesus. Line up, Oh, you looked at something bad last night. Oh, you hit your wife last night. Oh, you whatever. No, that's not what's happening. But you know what? He can actually, she can't wait to, she has experienced the joy of her deepest pains being revealed and brought to the light, right? Even if it is her sin, even if it is her going to the wrong wells, there's nothing better than having your deepest needs and your deepest sins and your deepest hurt exposed in the light of Jesus, because that's where you get healing. And that's why she's excited to go to the rest of the village and say, come meet the man who told me everything I ever did. Come. And they come because she's full of joy. She's been healed. She's been released. She's met the King of Kings and the Lord of Lords, the one who rules and created and is restoring all things. And she senses this and she brings them back. She brings them back to meet Jesus. So, the question for us here is, what are the wounds that you carry? What is the pain that you carry? That if Jesus were to lay them open, reveal them, and meet them with his healing love. You might feel afraid, right, at first. But you would ultimately be relieved, right? You would ultimately be overjoyed because the living water of God's Spirit would wash over them, right? To quench them, to restore them, to heal them. So what's if as you look at the list, the search for belonging, do I belong? Am I loved? The search for security, am I safe? Do I have enough? The search for significance, do I matter? Do I have purpose? Which one is most prominent right now? And where are you going to have that desire met? This is the thirst that Jesus wants to meet. He meets us at the well. And he says, if you knew the gift of God, you would ask me for living water. If you knew the gift of God, you would ask me for living water. And so today the invitation is to bring your thirst, to bring your wounds, to bring your desires, your deepest desires, to meet Jesus at the well, because he will meet you with the healing waters of life. So as we sing this last song, I want you to hold that desire or that pain that you carry, that you're desperate for the living water of Jesus to wash clean, to heal, to restore, to mend. This is what the King of the universe does. He meets us at the well. The living God who is exalted above all authority and power meets us in the dirt, at the very place where we try to have our needs met in false, ugly places. He is right there, ready to meet us. So let's sing this last song. And if you would be willing to stand, someone hit the light.